All right, guys. So we finally arrived here. Sorry about the mess. It's a little bit messy over here. Don't mind that at all. Um, it's been a couple of weeks, few weeks actually. It's been over a month, month and a half now that I have these back in here. I had an RS-1B before. This was an RS-1A. It's converted to an RS-1B by the previous owner. The passive crossovers have been redone completely. This speaker is in the best shape I've ever seen him. I've seen a lot of RS1s for sale over the past years, and the one I had needed so much work. I got rid of it. It was just too much money, and I honestly I got an offer that I could not refuse. So I walked into one again, relatively local. It was about a 2-hour drive. It was 130 miles away from me, one-way trip, but it was worth it. Came with original manuals, came even with the optional cable kit from Monster that was sold at the time when these speakers got sold. I even have the warranty card for the speaker. So the previous owner really took care of these speakers. They do have some age-related issues. They're very simple to negate, but here they are. Here they are. It's the Infinity RS-1 Reference Standard 1. This was their first 4-tower system built in the early 80s. They're about, they are, not about, but they're 5 foot tall. This was basically dubbed the baby IRS. Don't make any mistake. This was not like the IRS or the IRS-5. It's a completely different type of speaker, completely different size speaker, but their way of making this speaker was in very similar fashion, and it was also meant to bring it to the public a more affordable option of the IRS beta and the that came later than this one and the IRS 5. Um, this speaker was built after the original IRS. So there are two versions of the IRS. The IRS, the original one that was built in the 80s. This came after that, and then you had the IRS 5 after the Kappa series got developed. They changed out the woofers, all the gray woofers that they had, and the steel stamp woofers for the Infinity Kappa IMG woofers. That's the main difference. So Infinity did a lot of revisions. This one was no exception. I believe there's 3 or 4 different versions of this speaker as far as that goes on the passive crossovers where they make the most changes. So this is a quasi line source speaker, as they call it, or a shaded array. It was based on diffraction and point source theory. So this acts as a point source. It acts like it. It's not an actual point source. So it's a very quirky, different, typical Arnie Nudell type of design. It's a very out of the box thinking way. You don't see it much done anymore like this, but aesthetically and sonically, it does have some advantages over what I've had before. It's a completely different sound what you get out of a speaker this size. So I'm gonna take these grills off for y'all. These are kind of they're usually damaged. This is no exception. These need some fixing. As you can tell, they're a little bit wobbly. This here is broken. I need to fix this. This one is completely broken, but it's easy fixing. These were made out of wood, particle board actually. As you can tell, yeah, this one is pretty broken, but I'm very careful with it. So this is one of those age-related things I'm talking about. The previous one I had didn't even have them. So there you go. Anyways, this one is in immaculate shape. It's a beautiful speaker to look at. Aesthetically, this should appeal to any audio guy that sees this video. Pretty sure if you guys see this, that I got to check my mic once in a while. Um, when an audio guy sees this in a listening room, you want to rub your hands, sit down, and take a listen to it. So what is the first thing you got to pay attention to when you buy this? And I wanted to do this quickly because there's no video out there at all speaking about this at all. These speakers are kind of in the gray area if it comes to reviews and that type of stuff, aside from the very, very favorable stereophile reviews that this speaker got upon release back in the 80s. Of course, we now decades further in, there's tons of speakers that can play equally as good and better for sure, but you do get a whole lot of legacy audio in your living room when you go for something like this. So first of all, the first thing I would tell people when you go for this, and again, this is based on my second set that I own now, you got to sweet talk it, you got to build a relationship with it, and you got to put a ring on its finger and be married to it. This is the type of speaker you do not put down and just plug and play and have fun with it. That's not how this works. This takes a lot more understanding. There's a lot more going on with all these drivers. There are 34 in total all of a sudden that you put in that you put in your listening room, that's not a normal amount of drivers. Not even for an audio file, this is a normal amount of drivers. It's a huge amount of speaker that you get in your room. So you will hear a lot more fallacies as well. The flip side of that is you also hear a stellar recording through this, like it's the voice of God. It has a beautiful resolution in the mid-range. These EMIMs are extremely capable. Are these my favorite drivers in the most comparison speakers that I've ever had, as in Magnepans? It's different. It shares a lot of qualities of Magnepans, but the resolution that these drivers are operating with is just a level up from Magnepans. Even the LRS. I have an LRS which is based on their most modern drivers that they use today. So instead of wiring Mylar, now they actually put thin traces of ribbon material on the Mylar, so making it a lighter driver, more responsive, better transients, way more SPL capabilities. This still sounds a lot better than an LRS type of driver to me. Now I'm not gonna generalize the bigger models, you know, the 6-foot tall models that we have now. I have a timpani here that's 6x6, as you guys know, and that's an older driver. And I was always charmed by the sound because it's a warmer sound. You want a warm musical, very chocolatey, thick, syrupy sound. This is not going to be it for you. This is where you go into a more of a higher end type of sound, and that sounds maybe it's the wrong formulation. I should say more analytical speaker. You're more of an analytical listener. This will blow your mind. It's really super articulate. You can hear the lip smacking. You can hear even sometimes the singer swallowing. It's crazy how much detail that this array can produce. Now, I'm not going into in depth about the technicalities of this speaker. There is way too much to go over to, and it's also one of, this is why I said you gotta sweet talk it, you gotta build a relationship, and you gotta marry this thing. This is where you come in with your personal taste. You can adjust anything on this speaker with the controller. It's not a true servo controller, but it's emotional feedback system. So it's based on measuring the voltage that the cone is producing. There's a voice coil, and behind the voice coil, or I believe it's behind the voice coil or whatever, or before it. I'm not sure how that works. But there is a secondary voice coil that basically reports back voltage to the controller, and it knows how to correct by sending a signal. Servo is different. Servo, like the IRS Beta and the IRS 5 and the Delta and the IRS Epsilons use, and I might miss a couple of models here, guys, that use actual servo controlled. They use an accelerometer, so it really measures the speed of the woofer. Here it's based on what type of impedance is being reported back to the controller, and that's how it corrects. It's a moderate control of the woofers versus, like servo does, a very high control over the woofers. It does allow for more extension. It does allow for a way lower distortion front of these woofers. It allows for an extension for about 25 to 22 hertz, which is pretty deep. However, I'm not running them currently with the controller. So I'm running them with a bandpass filter on it, a Linkwitz Riley 24 dB, which is very recommended according to all the fans of these speakers, and also according to documentation. That's how the controller operates. And I basically slope them off 125 hertz, which is recommended, and I set them to even 60 hertz, because even if I go lower, I get room notes that are bloating the low end to an insane proportion. You gotta understand, when you even set it to 60 hertz, it slopes down. So you get a slope, and this slope still gets magnified by your room. So that's how by listening, I put it the way I wanted it. This is where the sound quality of the speaker is hard to explain to you guys, because you can set it any way you like. You can change anything you like about this speaker. You can change the crossover frequency, the cutoff frequency on the low end, the cutoff frequency in the upper end of the bandwidth that you're playing with. It's the same with the EMIMs. You can adjust the volume, you can contour it, all kinds of things you can do that makes this speaker fit better to your needs. So don't be disappointed when you hear this speaker in someone's room and go like, that's kind of not what I was expecting. It's kind of not as, that's just that person's personal flavor and how he set the controller. There's too many variables to tell you universally, this speaker sounds like Now, universally, there are a couple of things you can say about this speaker. This here is absolutely incredible to listen to. You get a speaker that has very, very, very little dynamic limitations, especially in my room. There's a lot of things I can get out of this speaker. There's also certain things that create challenges. Like I said, it already can present itself. Oh, that's too much of that. That's too much of this. But that's where you come in to fine tune this speaker. And I really have to explain that to people a lot because they go, oh, comb filtering. A speaker will comb filter. This will comb filter, but it's outside your hearing range. It's outside. It's being pushed outside where you're listening to. Um, Also, EMIMs are way different drivers and react way differently and project sound way differently than cones do. This were all cones, you get a lot more issues than you're doing with planar drivers like this. These drivers are straight drivers, so they're completely straight. These are all in line with each other and all move in unison with each other. Whereas a cone, you have a cone shape, and as that cone travels, you see what's going on here? You see what this is doing? So your time arrival becomes way differently, right? When you're playing with cones, then you come into a lot more issues. Also, impedance-wise, when a cone is a pistonic movement, and when you do this, guess what's going to happen? Your impedance is going to jump all over the place. These drivers are different in that regard. Of course, there's a lot more to it. I'm not a technician, but that's the gist of what's going on here. So what they did here, the third EMIM from the top plays the bulk of your mid. These drivers are still the original drivers. These drivers were notorious back in the day for getting damaged. I am still convinced to this very day that that whole old lifestyle comes from the fact that people tried to drive speakers like this or Kappas or the older RSs, which have EMs like or EMIMs like the RS 2.5, 1.5, 4.5, the RS2Bs, that they drive in with crappy, shitty, vintage bullshit gear. And I know I'm going to get burned for that. That's fine. But I've seen people try to drive speakers like this with an old piece of shit Pioneer receiver. It's not going to work for you. Sooner or later, something will catch, and that's going to be the money shot. So when you buy these speakers, I've seen it, guys. I've seen it. I've seen a race like this completely mangled because of people that do not understand. You shouldn't be doing karaoke in these speakers. Seriously happened. I've seen people do karaoke on them. Don't do it. This is a hi-fi speaker. This is not a PA speaker. It's not for public announcements. It's not built to do that. It's built to give you the best quality that this can give you in terms of control, transient response, clarity, resolution, spatial cues. This speaker does it in spades. Now, of course, there is a huge downside to a system like this. It is ginormous. Not everybody is going to love this in their room. There is audio guys out there, audio enthusiasts that I know, they're like, that's not for me. It's too big. It's too much going on. And I don't blame him. Like I said, you got to build a relationship with this stuff, and you gotta really, really, really be able to give it what it needs. That is space, your time, your dedication. It's no different than being married, guys. It really isn't. But once you get this pretty right, how they're sitting here for me right now, they sound phenomenal. They really sound good. My home theater part, not that I cared so much about the home theater part. You guys know I'm a 2-point guy, but I do have to adhere to my beautiful wife as well. She loves movies as well as I do. So for both entertainment-wise, in the home theater, it lifted it up tons of levels. When you hear the low end that I'm getting, we're still using subs in the back. I do relieve the towers and the speakers as much as I can in home theater mode. We still use the monoliths in the back. They are actually set out of phase about 160 degrees, 168 degrees, which was based on the calculations away from these speakers because they're right across from it. That was based on certain calculations and formulations that I cheated with ChatGPT, I'm not going to lie. But that worked out really well. Like, it gave me a good baseline of tuning these subs just right in, and I have these crossed over at only 60 hertz, so they're not being overwhelmed or overloaded with LFE or anything. Um, but to come back on this, guys, it voices perfectly in the middle. It also is the only speaker that I've had so far that came closest to the timpani in terms of depth and placement of sound. When you listen to Roger Waters, and not every speaker does this, y'all would think that, but when you listen to this and then you go back to my normal floor standards, even the Kappa 8s and stuff, it doesn't do it to that extent. When you listen to Amused to Death, which is recorded in Q Sound, some people find it cheaty, but it also showcases what your speaker can do. The radio is right next to you in the listening spot. You hear the wolves howling outside of the door. You could hear the tiger roaring, like swooping through the room. They really project sound beautifully. These do need to be a little bit more towed in because this beams. This is not like a cone. Remember, a cone waves out into the room and hits walls and reflections. This is literally a column of sound that goes right at you in a very narrow dispersion. So they're more directive for sure, but that's always been the case with emits, EMIMs. These drivers are very directional. You do have to aim them more at you. You do have to spend more time getting that just right. This is all about 2.5, 3 feet away from the back wall, which is plenty. Keep the back wall clear so you get some dipole reflections. You get dipole cancellations, but not to the point that I say that, for instance, with a magnet pan that I stand next to it is completely gone. I still get some action here, and I think that has to do with this diffraction wing. So the diffraction wing is made out of solid oak. There's 7 EMIMs in here in total, as I said, shaded. There's 2 tweeters in here. This is a super tweeter. I'll pull the cap off. I like it better. There's a tweeter on the back as well. Then we have the woofer columns here. These are big guys, dude. Big guys. I mean, they're about 125 pounds each. The wings are about 75 pounds each. It's 200 pounds for each side. It's a really, really nice cabinets, by the way. Rounded off very neatly. Beautiful veneer, like per Infinity. Always beautiful veneer on their older speakers. These are polypropylene low Q woofers. They've done that because in conjunction with the controller, that's how these are tuned. You have 6 8-inch woofers in here. Butylene surround. So that's kind of nice, guys. When you buy the speaker, you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to refoam these. These are in very good shape. Normally these are yellowed up, which doesn't do anything audibly, but it does show that, you know, somebody cared for these a lot. The low end of these speakers is very rich, very full, extremely dynamic, but do not expect subwoofer low. So that's something when people see this, they go, this probably can play down to 15 or 17 hertz. Yes and no. It can play down very low with the controller. I'm not using it right now, as I said. And that has to do with the fact, that's another thing, guys, quickly in between. The controller, it's a very demanding piece of equipment. You cannot use bridgeable amps. I have bridgeable amps right now. I have crowns on them. On the low end, 2.4 kilowatts and bridged for each. So each low tower is now operated by the crossovers on the Crown XLS 2502s. You can look this amp up. It's a very well-respected amp. It's a Class D. It's only used to drive low end. My Crestron CNM X7s, which basically are ATIs, those are Class AB, 300 watts, 350 watts with the nominal impedance of this wing. So it gets plenty of power to run this. This actually takes way more power to run than those woofers. But don't expect that you get 20 hertz in your room and crazy low end out of them, because that's not what that was meant to do. This was meant to be basically a floor standard package, and this here needs to couple with these planar drivers. You do get virtually unlimited dynamic range out of these speakers. I mean, when you listen to a piece of classical music, the crescendos just bow, bow, it just hits you so beautifully. It sounds absolutely stunning. It's definitely not any of the floor standards I've had so far in this room that can match that. That being said, it's very room dictating. Some rooms this will sound way too much, and in some rooms this might not work at all. So it's really indicative to the room that you're in. What else is there to say, you guys, about this speaker? It is a speaker that's by now 42 to 43 or 44 years old, something like that. I would say 42 years old, I believe. And it's a piece of Arnie Nudell's legacy that sits here in front of me. They look amazing. They sound really, really good. They do have flaws. Any speaker has that. When you come in here, it's not like you're going to go, this is the best speaker I've ever heard. For some it is, and for some it isn't. I mean, we're all having different experiences. You know, if you come from a Wilson Audio Wham, you know, then it's like, all right, this sounds a little bit different. Of course it does. You know, it's not a $300,000 costing speaker. Now, this speaker was MSRP, suggested price was around $8,000. They were sold for around, depending where you at, anywhere between $6,000 and $8,000, depending at the time and era that you bought these speakers. I would argue, even back in the day, you would get a lot of infinity sound in your home. This is a system that can, once you get it right, once you get it all nicely set up, it can last you a lifetime. It's, you know, people always speak in absolutes of beating a speaker. Can you beat this speaker for the price? Yes, probably. For the secondhand price that I've paid, it's questionable. I know that a lot of infinities are being inflated on the market, and it pisses me off to no end when I see someone yet again post a Kappa 9 for $3,500 or $3,400. It is lunacy. Don't do it. A speaker like this, and this is in good shape. That's the key part with these. When you find them, please spend some time. See, my mic is still on. Yeah, this, okay, cool. Sorry, because I don't know if the battery's out or not. It's kind of shitty. But when you go for something like this, $2,500 to max $3,000 is what you should spend on this, and you come home with something that will tickle your ears to no end. So this one I bought for $2,440. I promised the owner of this speaker that I would do a review. Jay, thank you again for the opportunity to come to your home and pick these up. I'm super happy with them. Sure, I've had my frustrations with setting these up. The more I start to understand, the more that I start to appreciate the speaker for what they are. Like I said, guys, this is it, man. This is one of the legendary Arnie Nudell creations that it's what it's all about. And where do I go from here? If I walk into an IRS beta for a really nice price, I would most likely do it. Am I in the kicking chair? Obviously not. If the IRS beta the better speaker, yes. Is the IRS 5, is that the better speaker? Unquestionably. Are there better speakers than this out there? Absolutely. But when you see this, when you hear this, and when you understand which era this was built in and what the philosophy is behind this, this here will definitely, if you're a fan of the brand, this is one of the holy grails for sure. Super happy with them. I have a lot of infinities, as you guys know. Always been a fan. Maybe I sound biased in this video. I would love to hear from you guys too. It's my first video back on my channel. I hope you like this. I hope you enjoy this journey. The timpani room is still happening. It takes time now because I spent some money on this too. There's more stuff coming for this, more things I want to do to them. I want to get the controller in here eventually, but I'm really not now I don't have the ability to basically spend another $3,000-$4,000 on amplifiers. I just got to recoup some money of this and we're good to go. But for now, I am extremely happy. I enjoy listening to them. Every time I come into the living room, I just have a smile on my face knowing that these things are sitting here. But guys, that's it for me. Hopefully you liked this video. Subscribe if you can. I lost a couple of subscribers and I'm very unfortunate, and maybe it was because you feel abandoned, or maybe I should have continued. And I promise you there's more content coming. We're going to compare